Hello, everyone. Welcome to my podcast. Thank you so much for your love, affection, and following in terms of my podcast. So, it's all your affection that I'm continuing this podcast with all your valuable support. Today, we are going to discuss about a very new topic that is cyber psychology, and we have an eminent guest for this discussion, international guest, Dr. Sheeba Armoogum. I'm very glad to have her on this show. And here I want to tell you that Madam is working as associate professor in the University of Mauritius. She is a cybersecurity architect. She is a patented inventor, and more than that, she is a keynote speaker and is always ready to give her valuable insights on the latest happening in the field of cybersecurity and also about secure AI and digital forensics. So, thank you so much, madam, for accepting my invitation and sparing your valuable time. And we are going to discuss about one of the most required topic in this current generation, that is all about cyber psychology. Even I am also very much interested in this area. And I request you all to follow this podcast from beginning to the ending. And after you hear this podcast, please like it, please share your valuable comments, and also do share with your near and dears because we are all involved in this particular topic. Thank you so much once again for your valuable support. Now we are going into the discussion. Madam, thank you so much for accepting my invitation and
You, Dr.
hearty welcome.
Rajesh. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. It's indeed a great pleasure and honor for me to be in your podcast. It's indeed a great initiative what you have done, opening this podcast.
Thank you so much, madam. Madam, can you please let us know what exactly is cyber psychology and how does it differ from traditional psychology or cyber security? So we heard a lot about cyber security, we heard a lot about psychology, but what exactly this cyber psychology is?
Well, absolutely. Cyber psychology is actually the psychology of how we interact with technology. It studies the mind and behavior in online and digital context. So, if you take traditional psychology, it looks at human behaviors and mental processes in general, and most often it's in offline setting. So, cyber psychology it zooms in on technology interconnected behavior, examining things like how social media affects identity, why online gaming can be immersive, or how anonymity on the internet it changes the way we act. So, in simple way to say, it is an interdisciplinary field. It blends the psychology, technology, and human-computer interaction. Since it is something new, I would like to give with the examples. So, cyber psychology is not about computers itself. That's why it differs from cybersecurity. When we say cybersecurity, it is about protecting data, networks, and systems from attacks, right? Cyber psychology, on the other hand, we talk about focusing on the human mind side of what is online when they are online. Like, for example, a cybersecurity expert, they might secure a system, but a cyber psychology might study why a person falls for a phishing scam or how being online affects someone's emotion. Like, if you put it in another context, cybersecurity deals with technical systems and infrastructure. Whereas if you see cyber psychology, it's going to examine these issues through the lens of human behavior and social dynamics. You can think of it like a digital world as a new environment, and you can think of traditional psychology. It's like we study our behavior in the real world. Cyber psychology studies us in the virtual world, and it is actually very much part of our real life because if you see, well, to let's give a picture. Like, if you take the traditional psychology, it's like studying how people behave in a village. Cyber psychology is studying how they behave on a global social network. But there is an overlap, people or people, but the context, screen, anonymity, instant communication, they all introduce a new twist. So Because of this, the frameworks they have actually emerged in cyberpsychology to address things like online identity, cyberbullying, internet addiction, and also virtual relationships, which were not consideration in a normal psychology decades ago. And while cybersecurity, when it often focuses on stopping threats, cyber psychology, it will inform it by explaining the human behavior that is behind those threats, like the psychology of cyber criminals or why users might ignore security warnings. So, cyber psychology keeps the human at the center. So there are many experts, they claim, they often emphasize that cybersecurity alone, it does not protect when it is to be human online. And this highlights the need to understand the person behind the keyboard. So it actually bridges that gap to make sure that we consider the well being of the human, the behavior, and the ethics with the technical side of a digital life. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, madam, here I wanted to know the main point about the ethical dimension. So, we know nowadays everyone is in the online world, and what is the significance of ethical dimension in this particular online world? So, what do you say about that?
Well, when you talk about ethics in online behavior, it's as you are we all know about that, right? It is very important because our digital actions they can have very real consequences. Like if you see, unlike those early days of the internet where people used to say it's just an internet, it's just the internet, it's not real life. We now know that what happens online, it affects people's life, it affects the mental health, it affects the society at large. So it is important for us to explore those ethical side. It means asking, are we doing the right thing by each other in this digital space? If we neglect that, a lot can go wrong. So for one, like let's consider online harassment and cyberbullying. So without ethics, one person can feel free to torment others from behind a screen. And the results can be quite devastating because victims they often suffer anxiety, depression. They can suffer from social isolation, and they can also be in extreme cases. There are certain cases where they have been driven to self harm and suicide. So we have seen tragic cases. Now there is something called as misinformation. Ethically spreading false news, it is quite problematic. But it does happen a lot. So when ethics are ignored, false information about health, about election, we know about the election, etc., they spread like wildfire. And what it gives the trust in institutions, and it can even danger the public health. So we have seen this with bogus cures, going viral, or election conspiracies. It caused real world to be unrest. And there are many examples out there. We won't go in detail of specific example, but neglecting ethics also leads to privacy nightmares. Like, technology platforms, they normally collect and they sell personal data without user fully understanding, basically treating people as products. There is a lack of ethical restraint here because this has led to massive data breaches, scandals where users felt betrayed. Imagine you find out a fitness app, for example, that is used for selling your health data to third party without your clear consent. Unfortunately, it is occurring, right? So ethically, that's a violation of trust because you trusted the app to install. So there are many discussions on that. Then we talk about large-scale data collection on social media. They emphasize mainly the need for informed consent, privacy, transparency, and which are normally they are lacking, right? So without any ethical guidelines, companies they might pursue the growth at the expense of users' rights and doing things like tracking your location 24/7 or listening to conversation for ads, etc. So there are many examples for misinformation and hate on a societal state scale or state. Ignoring ethics in AI and algorithm, this can eradicate the trust further. So think of those when it comes to our Facebook algorithm that had been tweaked in an experiment to see if they could affect our emotion by those, curating our news feeds. So users felt like lab rats. Sure enough that the research showed that seeing more negative posts made people write more negative updates. meaning the platform could influence users' mood. That was the intention. So this was done without explicit user content. So there are many instances which raise serious ethical questions about manipulation. So ignoring digital ethics also means that we are failing future generation, because young people, they are growing up with device in hand. If we don't model and enforce ethical online norms, we will leave them in a digital world which is going to be quite dangerous. And the result could be a culture of toxicity, misinformation, and exploitation online, not exactly the legacy we want. So, in general, if I have to say, if we drop the ball on ethics, we get chaos. But if we get it right, the online world can be a safer, you can trust them. It's a better space.
So in this context, I wanted to ask you about the most common myth or misconception about this cyber psychology.
Well, yes, there are many misconceptions about cyber psychology. I can give you maybe one or three of them probably. The first misconception I have come across is about cyber psychology is basically cybersecurity or IT. So this is the frequent mix-up. Okay, so people the moment they hear the word cyber, they think it must be about firewalls or hackers. Actually, in reality, like I said, cyber psychology is a psychology subfield. It's not a computer science one. It's about human in digital space. That is, it's not about writing code to stop viruses or anything. So many people, they assume it falls under cybersecurity, how to keep data safe online, but actually cyber psychology differs in many ways. So for example, a cyber psychologist, they might study why an online scam is persuasive. That is, the human cognitive bias is exploited. Whereas a cybersecurity expert, they're going to learn about the patching software vulnerabilities. So they overlap because human behavior, it affects security. Think about the phishing email attack, for example. But they're not the same. They too work in different ways. So cyber psychology is not just tech security or technology security with a fancy name. It is psychology focused on the cyber context. The second misconception what we hear is cyber psychology only deals with extreme cases like gaming addiction or internet caused depression. So many people, they assume the field is just about negative pathological use of technology, like it is a psychology of people who spend 20 hours a day on Instagram. It's true that cyber psychologists, they research internet addiction, they research on online depression. Of course, yes. But this misconception might come because those issues get media attention. So there is a notion that cyber psychology is concerned only with what I said. So in reality, the field is much broader. It covers actually the positive aspects too. So like how online support communities help people, maybe neutral behaviors like how we manage impressions on LinkedIn, and everything from telepathy to virtual realities that affect on phobias. And it also includes studying cyber criminal behavior, also how to prevent how to prevent and rehabilitate them. So when it is absolutely a look at problematic internet usage, it is not a doom and gloom disciple to fixate only on negative. So it's a full spectrum of how digital tech is intertwining those human life, good, bad, and quirky. For example, as cyber psychologists, they might study about digital empathy. That is, how people show kindness online, not just cyberbullying. So, how virtual reality they can treat PTSD, post-traumatic the stress disorder, and it can reducing the field to just screen addiction counseling. It can be amplified to get a huge oversimplification. The third misconception I would say is online life is not real. This is quite common what we hear. Online life is not real, so normal psychology does not apply, or people become totally different online. This is what the misconception is. So this one is quite interesting. Some people think they can separate their online persona completely from their offline self, like the internet is a consequence free playground kind. So they might say it's just the internet, I can blow off stream. So the misunderstanding here is into fold, I can say. One, that actions online, they don't have real impact, and we have seen that. And the humans, another one is the human psychology, they somehow fundamentally change online. In truth, our core personality and psychological principles, they do carry over into the cyberspace, even if our behavior adjusts to the online medium. So there is a concept called, it's called digital modulation hypothesis. So it actually suggests that the fundamental human capacities, that is empathy, impulse, control, all of them, they still exist online, but they are expressed differently, not the way we express in real life. So it's a bit different. So due to the digital environment. So in simple way, you don't become an alien on the internet. You're the same human with the same emotion and biases, but the online context might dial some people up or down. So if someone's shy in person, they might find it easier to socialize online because their friendliness, they emerge online thanks to anonymity. For example, you can because of the anonymity factor, they are able to communicate with people online. Whereas at the same time, some people who are polite offline in real life, they might flame others maybe in a forum because the usual social cues, like seeing the others facial reactions, they're absent, right? So that phenomenon, we call them as online disinhibition effect, which I can later explain about that. But even then, it's not that they have a split personality. I'm not saying about split personality. It is in fact rather the environment, the online environment is altering the expression of the usual behavior. And in another angle, if I could say, people often believe my online posts are just pixels, not real world to a real person. So that's a misconception. Psychological research shows that online interaction, they do affect us deeply. We know that, right? Often similar to in-person interactions. Insult. Somebody insults you online, hurt you online, support helps. All this comparison makes us, if someone is comparing you with you online, for example, that do make us feel inferior. Whereas online or offline, we do have kind of similar impact. So believing that online doesn't count, that's a myth. Our brain, it cannot completely separate them into two different stages. So another related myth also is cyberpsychology is not a serious science, it's just common sense or pop culture. Because it deals with everyday technology like Facebook or video games, some people, they assume it lacks kind of a rigor. So in fact, it is research based and it is data driven. So many researchers, they run experiments, they do conduct longitudinal studies, they even have neuroimaging to see how these technology use those correlates with brain changes, behavioral changes, and everything. So there are many studies that is being carried out. So in general, if I have to say, cyberpsychology, like any field, has to be it has to contend with the myths. And we have also clarified that it's not just one arm of the IT security. It is not solely about internet addicts, and that it doesn't posit we become totally unrecognizable online. In fact, we can say cyberpsychology's big message is the online world is a real social space. So the real psychological processes, they apply even if modulated by technology. So busting these kind of myths is going to help people take the field and their own online well-being more seriously. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Here, I want to ask you, just let us know us about the most key important terms like digital self-harm, online disinhibition, and algorithmic manipulation in very simple words, so that my audience will know about all these terminology in the best possible manner.
Well, that's a nice question. Digital self-harm, it actually sounds odd at first, right? So we usually think of self-harm as physical. So digital self-harm is when someone anonymously posts like a hurtful or a derogatory messages about themselves online. That's digital self-harm. In another way, a person cyberbullies themselves. They do that by pretending to be someone else. In fact, they do it themselves. So the question is, why would they do that? Their motives can be different. right? So some teenagers, for example, they might do it like it's like a cry for help, hoping someone is going to notice their pain, or it's to beat others to the punch, like by posting insults about themselves before anyone else can do that. So other people might do it out of self-loathing or depression. It's different, right? It's an outward expression of inner pain when they are talking about insulting themselves. That could be another angle. But there are cases where a teenager that is they create an anonymous account just to write "nobody likes you, you should die" on their own profile, for example. So it's heartbreaking, but it happens. There are many examples out there, and some of them they have taken up their life, etc. In simple way, digital self-harm is self-cyberbullying. So it's as if someone gratified mean things about themselves on a wall for others to see. So realizing this has made parents and even educators and even platforms think differently about some bullying reports. Sometimes the victim and the perpetrator, they're the same. It's the way some youths articulate psychological distress. Then we have, I think the second one you said was online disinhibition, right? So this term, on online disinhibition, we normally describe why people often act more freely or aggressively online than they would do that face to face. If you have ever wondered why are some people so nasty in comment sections, you would have thought about that, right? When they would never say that to someone's face in real. So for this, online disinhibition is the answer. In simple terms, the online disinhibition, the effect, it means that being behind a screen, it removes our filters. So people might overshare deeply personal feelings with strangers, or on the flip side, insults behavior, they would inhibit in person, etc. So several factors cause this. One is mainly the main reason is anonymity. Nobody knows it's you. Second one, invisibility. You don't see the person's hurt reaction. Third one, it could be lack of authority, no teacher or anyone monitoring. And the fact that you might not get immediate feedback or consequences. So it's like wearing an invisible cloak for feel invisible and safe for repercussion. So that is about online disinhibition. And can you please tell me what is the third one you asked me?
It was about algorithm manipulation.
Oh yes, algorithm. This sounds quite heavy. Okay, it's this one. It refers to how the algorithm curate our online content, like your behavior, opinions, without we realizing that. So these big platforms, they use algorithms to decide what you see. I'm not saying cybersecurity is coded for that. So these algorithms are there to decide what you see, which videos should be popped up, which post appears first for you, which ads you get. So they're not doing this randomly. They're often optimized to grab your attention and keep you engaged, because more engagement usually means more profit through the ads. So algorithmic manipulation is when these automated systems, they push or nudge you towards certain choices or content or belief. How do they do that? They do that by exploiting your data or psychological biases. It's like a tailor made information diet that can shape your views. So, we do have many like I can give you one example is TikTok's for you feed. I think in India we don't have TikTok. So many would have noticed that once you show a bit of interest in a topic, say a particular, maybe on a fitness or computer, the any other the anything like maybe on cooking, etc. So TikTok, it starts feeding you more and more of that what you have given as the interest. So before you know, if you're down like you're down a rabbit hole, like the algorithm has learned what triggers your attention and is now pulling those strings to maximize your watch time. So that's why someone might start on TikTok watching harmless maybe dance videos or cooking videos, and they keep on going on with the videos because they end up consuming the extreme advices they get from the TikTok, or maybe the political rants. So algorithm kept upping to keep the users hooked with that. So this is not by accident, okay? It's by design. So platforms like YouTube, they had similar issues. So there are many studies on that. So, in general, algorithmic manipulation is like a puppet string phenomenon. You are scrolling or clicking, thinking it's all your free will, but the platform is actively guiding your hand. So it gives you that the big ethical flux because it can infringe on our autonomy because we don't see the algorithm at work. So we might not realize our behavior is being steered. So the goal might be as benign as keeping you glued to the app or maybe as a sensor swaying your political opinion. So digital self-harm in general is like hurting oneself online. Online disinhibition, I can say that it's a no filter effect on the internet that makes people act out more, like for good or bad, because they feel hidden. And algorithmic manipulation, if I have to say, is when the invisible algorithm they decide and personalize what you see in a way that nudge your choices or emotions, sometimes benefiting the platform's agenda more than you. Voila. Yes.
So, connected question to this, I wanted to know what is the difference between the digital pressure that a teen takes from that of the adult. So, what do you see the difference between the teen digital pressure and adult digital?
That's a good question. In fact, there are some key psychological and experience difference between a teen and an adult in the digital world. Let's take the teen, 14 or teenagers. The digital world is like an extension of the social life and identity formation. I'm talking about 13 years and above. The adolescence is when people are figuring out who they are and desperately want peer approval. So social media and online platforms, they actually amplify that. So teens actually, they feel intense pressure to curate those ideal image. That is, they want to have the right selfies, the funny pose to be there, keeping up with whatever trends on TikTok is going on, all to fit in and not to left out. So the developmental psychologists, they have noticed that the teenagers brains, they're like a braking system. So and it is not fully developed. So at the same time, the emotional and reward centers, that is the one which drives seeking validation, they are in high gear now. So online, this is the one which translates to teens often acting more impulsively. That is, they posting that risky challenge videos for likes and being extra sensitive to the feedback. How many hearts did I get? Did my friends comment? So they crave those peer validation, and the internet provides an instantaneous quantifiable scoreboard of social success or failure with likes, with streaks, with follower counts, everything. So that can be, I must say, it is like an intoxicating and stressful. So you heard about the phenomenon of FOMO, fear of missing out, so which is very huge in adolescents online. So if a teenager sees friends hanging out on Instagram without them, or they are not on a platform where everyone else is, this can genuinely make them anxious or depressed. Like, I think there are many studies, they have said that more than 4 in 10 teens, they have said they feel pressure to post content that make them look good to others. And about around 45% of teens, they admit they are online almost constantly. Many feel they have to be because otherwise they will miss something or lose connection with friends. Whereas when you talk about adults, I'm not saying in general way, the digital pressure is a bit different. Adults normally, in general, they are not fixated on peer approval in the same way the way teens are having, and one is hopefully less ruled by peer pressure. Adults normally, they use social media to keep up with family news or professional contacts. But of course, these are, I won't say in general. So adults, they have their own digital stresses. One big one is information overload and being always on. Many working adults, they feel pressure to respond to emails every late at night or to stay reachable through WhatsApp or other platforms. So the boundary between the work and home, that has blurred because of the technology. We know about that, right? We all work. It's like We are practically omnipresent kind. So an adult might feel stressed by the expectation of instant responses, maybe by the organization from the boss, and also lots of digital communications, that has to be replied. So this always on culture that can kind of burnout, that can lead to a burnout. So in general, a teen stress might be, I need to reply to my friend's snap in 5 minutes or it'll lose, like they're going to lose the streak. Whereas the adult, it's like, I need to reply to my client's message, even though it's Sunday. So that will look unprofessional if I don't reply. So both are pressures, but from different sources. So adults also face something called as privacy and reputation concerns online, perhaps more acutely. A teenager, they might overshare on Instagram and not thinking of long-term consequences, whereas adults are often, though not always, they are very cautious because they worry about how a post might affect the job or relationship. So in that way said, adults can of course fall prey to other things like misinformation or scams, or even more easily than the teens are falling. So whether it is teen or adults, we need to, the stress might be more about the time management and information management. So for adults, it is more on that category, whereas for a teenager, it is more onto the social management and self-image. That's what we get the information as with these two category of people. So both generation, whether it is teen or the adult, though they are dealing with a flood of content and the need to set healthy boundaries, it is a challenge in the digital age about these two category of people online.
Yes. Here I wanted to know, like, what is the role of these algorithms and social platforms that play in influencing user behavior and emotional responses? So you are already told about them in your previous reply, but I wanted to be more in-depth explanation in a concise manner so that we can also know what is the influence of these factors on us.
Yes. See, algorithms that's running our news feeds and recommendation pages, I call them as the invisible DJs, spinning like a custom playlist for each of us. So their goal, from the platform perspective, I'm saying, is normally to maximize our engagement. That is, keep us scrolling, clicking, watching. So when in doing that way, they most certainly influence our behaviors and emotions, sometimes in surprising ways. The mechanism of influence I would like to discuss. See, algorithms, they learn from our data, what we like, what we watch, what we comment, how long we linger on a post. And then it's going to be served, those content are going to be served to predict what we are going to respond to. So, one mechanism is personalization. Over the time, your feed becomes like an echo chamber of your preferences. So, if you start engaging with, say, cooking videos, the algorithm shows you more, like I said earlier, maybe even more extreme versions. Like today, maybe you will get a simple recipe. Tomorrow, you might get a 10-day gourmet cake challenge, something. So this can shape behavior by reinforcing certain interests or maybe the viewpoints. So you might find yourself like deep diving into a hobby or belief because the algorithm keeps feeding you in that. So another mechanism is frequency and exposure. So algorithm decides which friends update you see. So they can amplify those certain relationships and diminish others. We have seen that in platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook. Like if you often interact with one friend's post, you will see them more. And most likely making that friend seem more important in your life. Then we do have emotional responses like, see, platform, they can trigger emotional highs and lows deliberately. They can sprinkle in content to elicit the reaction. Like engaging content is often content that sparks a strong emotion, like laughter, anger, maybe outrage. So an algorithm might learn that you respond a lot to, say, motivational quotes when you log in late at night, perhaps when you're feeling down. So it gives you more of those altering your mood, maybe positively in this case. But on the flip side, if you see, if controversy keeps you glued, it might flood your feed with polarizing posts that make you furious or anxious. So we have seen this with Facebook. There were incidents in the past which I wouldn't like to refer right now. In the behavioral response side, one major area is time spent. So these algorithms, they are quite finely tuned to keep us hooked. So infinite scrolling, where content just keep loading and autoplay on videos. These are algorithmic design choices. So that has actually increased the amount of time people spend online. So there is an infamous statistics, I must say. YouTube's recommendations, it normally drives something like 70% of the time spent on the platform. So it auto serves the next video you're likely to watch. And this reduces the friction of choice. So many of us um, have experienced this, right? You go to watch one video, and an hour later, you have been swept through five more similar you never planned on. So this is quite normal. In a way, the algorithm actually shape our behavioral habits, and they encourage repetitive checking, maybe prolonged use, frequent engagement. So they nudge you to open the app with notifications. You won't believe what your friend posted. Like, you have a feeling like that. So, and to keep you inside once you are there. There are many case studies on that. So now we talk about the algorithm. They also shape consumer behavior big time. Like, on Instagram or Facebook, algorithms, they normally identify when you might be susceptible to a purchase. Maybe you lingered on a post about hiking. So you might soon see ads for hiking boots. If the algorithm is really sophisticated, it might even know you usually shop late at night, perhaps for tracking your past activity and time the ad, give the ad accordingly. So this personalized targeting, this has led many people to impulse buy things they didn't initially actually intend to buy. It's a kind of form of gentle but effective behavioral manipulation towards consumption. Emotional AI and content is another category I would like to inform. This is a new frontier, that is algorithm detecting sentiment. Some platforms, they have considered using your webcam or keystroke patterns to guess if you're happy or sad, and that that is the adjust that it adjusts the content. So imagine you have a music app that notices that you're playing a lot of melancholy songs and then suggests more of the same, potentially keeping you in a sad loop, or maybe offering uplifting tunes. So these kind of responsive algorithms, they could either help by providing what you need, like supportive content if sad, it's momentary, right? Or they could even exploit your mood, showing you more sad stuff because you engage with it, and even if it makes you feel worse. So there are many studies on that. On the positive side, algorithms, they can also encourage good behaviors. For example, you take the LinkedIn's cases. LinkedIn's algorithm, they might highlight you with educational articles or job posting, and that is that like that gets someone to apply for a better job. So fitness apps, they you take the example of fitness app. So they use algorithmic nudge that you haven't walked much today, take a stroll. So these are behavioral changes too in a positive side, like hopefully to have a healthy one. So if I have to say in nutshell, social media algorithm, they influence us by selective amplification. They decide which of the countless posts or videos out there to put in front of your eyeballs. So by doing so, they what actually they are doing, they're directing our attention. So which is often that it directs our action and feelings. So as there are many studies being done on that. So the main recent realization in research and policy is that transparency and user control, they are very much needed for when we talk about algorithm. So algorithm, if you conclude, I have to say, shape what we do and feel online by actually curating our online experiences. It magnifies certain content, hiding other contents, all based on what will make you engage. So that can lead us to spend more time online, feel specific emotions like outrage, ephemeral joy, So, and even change our beliefs or actions, like from buying a product to adopting an extreme viewpoint. So it's both amazing and a bit scary that lines of code have become this effective at mass behavior change, often without us even noticing the general push that's happening. Yeah.
So here I wanted to know the most, we can say, uh, like biggest ethical challenge in this digital age. If you take the design of the technology, if you take the surveillance, if you take the consent, what do you think is the most urgent ethical challenge as on
Uh,
date?
can you repeat again?
I just wanted to know what is the most urgent design challenge in terms of developers, designers, and all the
Okay.
people involved in this particular
Yeah.
cyber area.
Yes, it's about the you wanted to know about the ethical design of emotionally interactive technology, etc. Yeah. See, designing emotionally interactive technology, we normally call them as affective computing or emotional AI, right? So that is ethically I must say it's a hot topic right now. So when technology interacts with human emotions, like say an AI detecting you're sad and responding, there's a lot of sensitivity data that's required. So you want such technology to help, not manipulate or harm. So there was an important study starting point. There was a study being conducted, and they concluded that one of the starting point we could start is the ethical framework specifically tailored for AI and emotional interaction. You have the IEEE's ethically aligned design initiative. That's one example I could give you. IEEE actually they gathered experts worldwide to outline, the principles of AI that prioritize human well-being and values. Some top principles from that work, that is, and similar guidelines we have by EU and OECD. And what does it include? It include respect for human rights, prioritizing human well-being and flourishing over narrow technology goals. And they talk about data privacy, especially for intimate data like emotions. Also, it talk about transparency. Users should know they are interacting with AI and how it works. And accountability. Designers, they should be accountable for outcome. So in practical term, for an emotional interactive system, this means it should benefit the user's emotional health. So we do have the designs matter when we talk about the designs, like you said about the question on the ethical design for emotional interactive technology, it matters. So you can think of do not harm as a basic rule, like a therapy chatbot, for example, should be designed following clinical best practice so it doesn't accidentally worsen someone's anxiety or give harmful advices. Part of ethically aligned design is making sure such systems have been vetted by psychologists and tested thoroughly for safety. Another big concept in this is the consent and agency. See, emotional technology, they often collect sensitive data, your tone of voice, facial expression. So, ethical design means the user should know what's being collected and consent to it, not automatic. So, and ideally, users have control. They can opt out, delete data, or adjust how the AI responds. So, the IEEE guidelines I was saying about, it took about data agency. That is giving people control over their personal data, which is very crucial, right? When the data is literally your feelings. Then you do have cultural sensitivity. That is another topic, which is emotions are expressed differently across cultures. This is very important. And what is an appropriate empathetic response in one culture, there might not be in another one. See, if you have a well designed emotional AI, it will account for that. So it doesn't offend or misread a user. For example, let's take an AI. It might recognize that maintaining a certain physical distance or avoiding certain phrases is important in their culture, in one culture, emotional norm. Let's take that. So ethically, you don't want a one size fit all emotional AI that could be a violation for another cultural norm. So it should be designed to maintain to satisfy all the users.
Yes, exactly. And finally, if I wanted to know, like, if you have to correct one misconception about cyber psychology, what is that one correction you want to make?
Well, I would think about the first misconception I talk about cyber psychology. That is, people tend to think that cyber psychology is cybersecurity and IT. This is very important right now because it is important to know that cybersecurity is not about how do you say, it is not about cyber security, that is securing the about firewalls, etc. So one more misunderstanding what I encounter is the idea that online actions are not as serious as real as offline action. I think you do agree with me. Many times when we have complaints done, oh, that's online, that's nothing to do with the real life. So people often they think that, or they say on the internet that it has less impact, like online insults are not as hurtful, or online activism is not effective, or online criminal acts they are not as bad as physical war crimes. So these are kind of misconceptions we have. So it's just the internet that has been really persistent. That's what they think. So the evidence backed truth is online actions they can have very real consequences, emotionally, socially, even physically. So the line between online and offline, this is practically gone in terms of impact. So for example, you take cyberbullying versus face-to-face bullying. Many studies they have shown that being harassed or humiliated on the internet, it can be just as damaging to someone's mental health as in-person bullying. So victims they do experience anxiety, they do experience depression, and in some extreme cases, it has contributed to self-harm, to suicide, the same way as the traditional bullying. So there is nothing just virtual about the pain inflicted. So it's not there are many out there, there are many misconceptions. That I think this is something that we need to take it into consideration, which is online actions are not as serious as the one which is on real life we have. Yes.
Thank you so much, madam. It was really awesome to have a discussion with you. You have given valuable insights about the current trending topic, that is all about the online crimes and online harassment. We see most of the teenagers, adults, they are always into this, and they even cannot discuss with their parents, their teachers. They cannot tell what is happening to them. They don't even understand what is happening to them. And in this time, this discussion is really very useful. Thank you so much for giving us valuable insights and sparing your valuable time. Thank you so much, madam. It was
I
really.
would like to say, like what you mentioned, I would like to say, see, your podcast is like an awareness program as well for people. So it is something you should propagate so that people understand, like the way we give awareness for cybersecurity is very important to give awareness on cyber psychology, because we can't put it aside. They are not two entities. They are linked to each other. So it is important to know the psychological behavior and the harm and the infliction it can happen on online, so that it is healthy for them to browse and have the online life safer. Yeah,
Exactly.
thank you, Dr. Rajesh, for inviting me. It's indeed a great pleasure and honor for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you.